All right, we're live with the fourth edition of this setup. Today we have Iain with us. Say hello.
Hi there. Hello.
Um, Basically, just a few questions. So I'm going to start with how did you get into GamerGate? And yeah, just how did you get into GamerGate?
Yeah. Well, I was hanging around in a group called the Honey Badgers radio podcast group because I was a fan of one of their podcasters, Girl Writes What, and we found that it was a very interesting issue in terms of men's rights because of it having so much connection in that it was feminism deciding that there was too much male influence in gaming specifically, and that there needed to be much more feminist and female influence in gaming. So, to begin with, it was just an issue we were looking at, and just a background news story that we'd see a lot. All that sort of thing about what Zoe Quinn was getting up to, what Anita Sarkeesian was getting up to, and saying. I mean, none of that was a mystery to anyone when Gamergate started, was it? Everyone knew full well who Anita Sarkeesian was and what her criticisms of gaming were and how unfair and unfounded they were. So we've been listening to that, and that's what kind of brought me over, because I've pretty much stopped doing men's rights stuff altogether, really. I mean, we a whole bunch of us really sort of swarmed over and thought, oh no, this looks a lot more interesting. This is a much more worthy campaign. Because, I mean, to begin with, it wasn't really even a campaign. And there wasn't any sort of conscious decisions. It's just, we sort of drifted over here, really. Yeah, only about 20 or 30 of us, I think. So that's sort of what got me in. I was listening to other people's podcasts, and that's what dragged me over. I mean, we'd already found that people like Mundane Matt and Sargon were very popular with the Honey Badgers crowd. So it was really no surprise at all that we would find the Gamergate issue interesting and want to follow it and support it. So that's sort of how I got into it, really.
All right, and now more to the present. Currently, what are you currently doing for Gamergate, and what do you think Gamergate are so far?
Excellent. I'm totally glad you asked me that one, because that's the question that I can turn around to my own the operation that I'm connected with at the moment, which is Operation Firefly 2, which is where we're trying to promote the game journalists that we're supporting as part of Gamergate. Try and promote them more on Tumblr in different fandoms, and it involves people getting up on Tumblr with a fairly clean account, installing just two very small plugins into their browser, Xkit and auto tagging, and then essentially what we're going to do is post Gamergate and Tech Raptor articles, but with, I think I understand it, I've only just looked at all the details this morning, but into different fandoms, like we'll put tags into gaming, say, or hell, even Doctor Who, so that we can get a very large amount of stuff posted on Tumblr by people very quickly, so that there is actually an alternative viewpoint there to, well, as you can imagine, to the rabid Tumblr propaganda that must be going on about Gamergate. I mean, it's one of the many issues that they will automatically attack you on if you say in any way, shape, or form on Tumblr, they're like, oh, I totally support Gamergate. You'll either be ignored or vilified.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's the operation. I mean, it's the brainchild of Victor Blanchet, who's worked out all the details and all the complicated stuff, which I must admit I still don't fully understand. I downloaded the plugins this morning and got up on Tumblr, and that was a pretty relatively painless affair. It didn't help that I'm sort of stupid and technically illiterate, but I did manage to get through the downloading and setting it all up process. That was pretty straightforward. So that's what I'm going to be pushing. I mean, we've already got it posted on 8chan, we've got it posted on Twitter, on Tumblr, and on Facebook. And it's really just a question of getting more and more people involved and getting more and more of the journalistic sources involved. Like so far, we've got Tech Raptor, Niche Gamer, and another company. It's on the links that I'll drop in the room in a minute, and you can maybe add them to the low bar for us. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what I'm
see.
doing. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, as well as running GamerGate Ultras on Facebook,
Yeah,
which is
tell a little more about that.
certainly. We, we're probably not the biggest group of GamerGators on Facebook, but we are very active. We do try and be very active. And certainly it's the most content laden of the Facebook groups. I mean, I'm hopping around from YouTube to 8chan up to Twitter and Skype and that kind of thing all day long, finding different stuff and day-to-day stuff that really is within the last couple of hours or so. And we post that all day long. I've got a bunch of very, very good admins, and and very good members who also provide the bulk of the content, really. And it's one of the best places, even in my own estimation, to go and find GamerGate information on the internet. Perhaps not in the terms of a storage space for information or any of that kind of thing, but certainly in terms of a place to hang out and ask people what the fuck is going on, and to get relevant articles handed to you in a timely manner. So I would recommend it to anyone. I mean, we're a bit on the red-pilled side of GamerGate. It might not be for everyone. We totally are we don't tolerate a lot of tone policing. We expect everyone to be civil to each other, but nobody's going to get castigated for having a problematic or an uncomfortable viewpoint. I mean, we don't recognise things like that. We have people from Poll and we have people from Not Your Shield, and we all seem to bubble along quite nicely. So yeah, that's us. Come and join us if you like. I'll probably also have a link to that in the low bar before I'm
Yeah.
finished.
Yeah. Just a little heads up. You are the biggest GamerGate group. I just checked. At this moment in time, you have 1,271, making you the biggest GamerGate group. So.
Wow. It always stuns me when I look at those numbers and think, why? Why are so many sane people listening to this idiot? But we must be doing something they like, I think.
All right. Next topic. What do you see for in the future for GamerGate?
Well, yeah, we've been talking about this a lot, all of us, I think, as a community recently, and it is time to tie our hair back and get the suit out. We're going to have to up our game in terms of the government, because that seems to be where things are going, or in terms of authorities and that kind of thing. We've had that Congress lady, I forget her name, going to speak to the FBI, which was worrying. But in happier news, I saw today a news report saying she'd been talking to Jezebel and saying she was unhappy about how the FBI had viewed her requests and that kind of thing, which sounds perfect. It's like they said, no, we're not gonna go and arrest a load of gamers just because they annoy feminists. That's not happening.
We talked about it briefly on GamerGate 32.0. We briefly touched it where we were kind of streaming at the same time. Go on.
Yeah, this is it. And so aside from that, we're going to need some more official operations that have a similar scope and theme as to the emailing campaigns that were successful for us in the beginning. But essentially, we need now, I believe, the goals are connecting with devs and getting them on board and on our side, the rebuild stuff, which is very, very important going forward. Also, that was the other thing, yeah. They were continually digging at the dodgy stuff that they have done and seeing where we go there in terms of prosecution or pushing bodies like the FCC to be interested in how people are doing their ethics and that kind of thing. For instance, we had that thing lately with a girl who'd done that Kickstarter, and then she'd hit Ouya up for some cash for this game called Bear Senpai or something, and she was going around all these different people asking for cash for the same thing, and that was rather odd, and people were saying this is a bit iffy. So more stuff like that is, I think, the way forward in the future. Keeping on the digging and publicising what we find and that kind of thing. We've really got to break out of the kettle and get at the media or get at the wider group of gamers. Because I notice in a lot of gaming groups, just average ones, if you start anything relating to Gamergate in terms of a thread, some feminist will pop up from somewhere and start argy, and usually the admin will be quite blue-pilled, and they will just listen to the feminism when the feminist says...
I've encountered that, so I can attest to that.
And I think we all have, and that's probably why we feel kettled. It's a useful tactic. It does work. So I think we need a system going forward where, like, we'll go out and, like, maybe bunches of 2 or 3 people posting this stuff and wait until someone kicks off, and then all saying, well, no, actually, we have every right to post this, or I like this post type stuff, and maybe pretend we're not all together and that kind of thing. So that, like, eventually groups get this reinforcement the other way around, that, like, they know if they're going to treat Gamergate unfairly, then a bunch of Gamergaters will appear from nowhere and sea lion them a bit and say, well, what has Gamergate ever done to you? And I'm sorry to explain it like that, but I'm a simple man, and I don't think there's anything really wrong with sea lioning. I think that's called just debating a point, really. If we actually did pop up and pester the same people continually, then that would be sea lioning and harassment. But I think just going out there and actively trying to get your point across is absolutely fair play and what we should be doing, and we shouldn't feel guilty just because the left says, oh, you shouldn't be. Or, well, not the left, but, you know, the authoritarian SJW.
Yeah. Basically, the authoritarians who want to tell us what to think.
Authoritarians, that's a better way to put it, yeah. So I think we need to be less afraid of them and to get out there with our points and just let it water off a duck's back when they start shouting bigot and that kind of thing. We have every right to say what we are saying. Our message is a good one. It's not a sexist one. It's not a misogynist one. It's not bigoted in any way, shape, or form, except in the SJW mind. And we need to cast all that aside and say, no, damn it, we're doing this. That's me thinking about the future.
All right. So on to the last question, which is probably the most elaborate one. What do you see Gamergate could improve on, and what is Gamergate actually doing right?
What are we doing right? So much we're doing right. We've done so much right from the beginning, amazingly so. I mean, the way we can take over hashtags and the way we piggyback on other issues that come around is beautiful. You know, there are so many organizations, activist organizations in the past, look to Gamergate and just say, this is stunning, this is amazing, where is it coming from, how does it happen, like, there's no leaders, there's all these operations and projects seemingly appearing out of thin air, and then hundreds and thousands of people will start retweeting and posting things, and they're over here on this network, they're over here on this network, they're everywhere. We've done very, very well in so many terms. Where are we specifically going right? The soft pressure that we apply. It's always continually got to be that. Clever operations, countering narratives that they lay out wherever we can. You know, the articles that they put out, the tweets that they put out, anything that displays their narrative is a very fair game for us to jump on and to counter-argue against. And we do that very well, and we should continue to do that well because it is listened to. What do we do incredibly wrong? Well, I think what we've been doing wrong lately, and I'm going to talk about this in just the very generalist of terms because I don't want to focus on any individuals. Um, Focusing our concerns on ourselves, like policing ourselves when we don't need to. I mean, I see this as a culture war. So I see many of our journalists and our bigger voices as being the equivalent of our tanks and battleships and that kind of thing. So when members from the movement turn around and start attacking these figures and these faces, I see it very much as troops sabotaging their own equipment, and I'm inclined to like drag these people to one side and what the fuck you think you're doing? Stop it! Bam! But you know, evidently you know, self-evidently, we must have some transparency like that. We must have a degree of oversight. But I think it's people have been using it to try and cripple GamerGate for obviously because they have enemy sympathies or sympathies with the opposition, and I don't think that's right. I think we need to get right out of the habit of that very quickly. I think that needs to be stopped, because so many other voices, when they see this happening, they think, right, well, I'd better not stick my head above the parapet, and they think perhaps I shouldn't do podcasts anymore and things like that. I don't want like all those people griefing me. And also they think to themselves, yeah, I can see this particular group are having a go at all these people. Perhaps I just don't want to know them, just to keep myself safe. And then wallop, we've got big splits because of it. So this is why that kind of stuff can't happen. It's incredibly bad for our morale. It's incredibly divisive. So I think that is the main thing I would reiterate that has to be stopped. Or it has to be discouraged, not stopped. I mean, we don't go around stomping anyone, and we're not authoritarians, and we don't even really think like that. Maybe I do a bit, but you know,
All right. Yeah, that's about it about this interview. Just send me the link in the chat. I can put them in the description so people can support and join up in the ultras and join up in the op you're doing. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.